Okay, this is Phoenix, the College Success Professor, and it is another Momentum Monday, so I am happy to be here. We are in June, my favorite month, the month of my birth, and we're talking about a very important topic where we can go a lot of different places, so we'll see where we wind up. This is an all encompassing topic, and I think one of the most important parts or ideas about why and how it's important to get your mind right and get your child's mind right for college. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, mindset and the momentum that is necessary for getting and shifting from the high school mindset to the college going mindset for students who are going to college next year. So let's get into it. First, I wanted to start off by talking about what mindset is so we can get clear on why it's important and how it can impact a student's ability to be successful in college, a student's ability to be happy in college, and a student's ability to get all that they can possibly get out of the college experience. Because in my opinion, maybe aside from finances, which can be somewhat out of a student's control, um, and even beyond academics, because you can struggle academically. We will be talking about academics and academic mindset and academic things next week on Momentum Mondays. But I think over those things, mindset is the thing that can take you out of college quickly and have, I would say, long term, not having the right mindset or having maybe a high school mindset or other mindsets that are not going to help you to be successful can really take you out of the trajectory, the path, the momentum that's important for students to be successful in college. So let's get started by talking about specifically what mindset is. What do I mean when I'm talking about mindset? So mindset, as I've made in a couple of posts, is, and I like this description of it, a way or your ways of thinking, your patterns of thinking that can, and I have like an official definition of some of this a little bit later, but your patterns of thinking and how those patterns of thinking, because when you think things over and over again, they form your beliefs. And so how you're thinking, how your belief systems, how all of that can impact your actions, your behaviors, and how all of that can ultimately affect your success in college and beyond college, your success in life. Because obviously your mindset is not necessarily something that's just in one component of your life. Your mindset can span a variety of different parts of your life. So let's talk about what I mean by your beliefs and your behaviors and things like that. So specifically for high school students, their beliefs about what college is going to be like, their beliefs about past experiences with professors, their beliefs about, all the different experiences that they've had in their life are going to impact their high school or their college selves until they, pretty much get familiar with and get to know this new environment. And so one of the things that is going to be really important is going to be talking about how your belief affects or impacts your identity, who you are, who you think you are. So for example, if you have a student, and I often talk about like overachiever type students, in part because I do work with those students a lot. I was one of those students. I also work with students who are, I would not necessarily describe as overachievers. But if you were using that as an example, if you're thinking about an overachiever, a student who always gets A's, that's a part of their identity. Or even beyond that, a student who is in their mind a future doctor or a future engineer, that's a part of their identity. So if you go into the university or you go into your university and you have this self-concept of yourself as being a certain way, and then things happen that don't reinforce your identity of who you are, you go to a college prep high school, you think you are prepared for the college level work, and then maybe that reality of maybe having to step up your game and do a little bit more work than you're used to kind of shakes your foundation of what you think or who you think your identity is. I'm a student who always gets good grades. If that's a part of your identity, then that's a part of your belief system. But when the reality doesn't line up with with that, then sometimes that can impact your mindset and can cause you to give up, can cause you to change, you know, maybe not intentionally, can shake your foundation, can shake your self-confidence, can shake your beliefs in who you are and who you were meant to be. So that's why mindset is so important, why mindset, like having a strong foundation of your mindset and being able to have coping skills and strategies and tools and resources, be there people as your resources, or be there ways of doing things or strategies that you can put into place to make sure that you are going to be still successful in regards to being, you know, a future nurse or a future doctor or a future whatever your future career or what have you is. Also, that mindset of being college ready, being college material, all of that can also be shaken by your experiences, especially during those first few weeks of the semester. Your mindset with regard to the type of person that you are, the type of person that you want to be, or the person that you aspire to be is going to be impacting with, is going to have your mindset about that is going to have an impact on your ability to be successful. So let me get into my notes and more specifically what I wanted to talk about today. So when we talk about mindset, and one of the things that when we are talking about the way that not having the right mindset can cause you to be not as successful as you had planned or hoped to be, there's also this idea of how we can self-sabotage and how students do self-sabotage when they are in that transitional period between high school mindset and college mindset. So what do I mean by self-sabotage? So in the class that I am teaching this summer, there's actually this assessment that is based off of a book. Do I actually have a book? I don't think I do. This book called Positive Intelligence, and you take this assessment and it identifies your saboteurs. And so some examples of what a saboteur can be, for example, an overachiever is a type of saboteur, meaning that you get your confidence or your ways of thinking highly about yourself because you are overachiever. Another saboteur could be like a people pleaser. So you are always, maybe you don't have boundaries or you don't have strong boundaries and you're always doing things for the benefit of someone else, or so someone else can think of you a certain way. So the way that your outlook is on the world, the way you think things work, or your belief systems or your habits of thinking can negatively impact your ability to be successful based on whatever saboteur is driving your behavior. So if you're not clear on your goals, if you're not clear on how to cope with things when they don't go your way, if you don't have a strong foundation, if you don't have a strong support system, if you're not clear on your motivation, if you don't have a clear reason or foundation for why you're in college, all of these things can impact your mindset. And then it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy or a way that you're self-sabotaging yourself because maybe one thing doesn't go as planned and you think that, the whole thing needs to be given up on, or the whole thing is not going to work in accordance to how you want it to work. So that's what I mean by mindset, how we self-sabotage, how students self-sabotage. There are different types of ways that you can self-sabotage in college. There are different ways that your mindset can limit your ability to be successful in college. And I've talked about this also before, and it's the idea of overconfidence and how that can sometimes set you up for success. So when you are overconfident in your abilities and you are not taking personal responsibility for maybe not meeting the level or the expectations of an instructor, or meeting the level or expectations of the type of school or the type of class or the type of requirements for your major, that can sometimes, or that can often lead you along the path of, on a decline. So one of the things that's going to be important is to have these types of coping strategies. And one of the coping strategies that is very popular is called reframing. There's a technical term, a psychological term for it too. I forget what it's called. But you reframe. So instead of thinking, for example, if we're talking about academic setting, that your professor in your class doesn't like you, or grades too hard, or anything of that sort, rethinking that this teacher, for example, if you take a nursing class, for example, there are certain standards that are required for you to be able to pass the nursing exams, for you to be able to actually effectively work and help and cure, or help patients to heal. So if you are thinking that, not taking responsibility, you're blaming the instructor for grading too hard, you're blaming the instructor for not, treating you fairly, instead of thinking that, reframing it and thinking that, okay, I need to have these certain skill sets, I need to have this basic information in order for me to be an effective nurse, in order for me to be effective in my job and my responsibilities going forward for my future career aspiration of being a nurse, then that is going to be a good reframe, helping you to meet that level of expectations, meet those standards, rather than going down the blaming, the giving up, the not taking responsibility route of what some students do. And oftentimes it's kind of sad that students who are coming into college or going into a specific major with maybe unrealistic expectations about what the major is really like, unrealistic expectations about what is actually going to be required for them to do regarding the coursework or the levels of different mastery of subjects and content and materials and levels of understanding, that can also impact their mindset. So let's talk about another idea with regard to mindset. Let me just look at my notes real quickly. And I kind of talked about this a little bit last week, but all of this, I have the fan on, so things are going around. All of this is a part of what's going to be important, or what we talked about before regarding your self-awareness. So being aware of your strengths, being aware of your talents, being aware of the areas where you are going to be successful, and the areas where you're going to need support, be it a resource support, be it additional work that you need to put in, be it whatever it may be. So self-awareness and your ability to recognize whether you are being your emotions are taking control over your ability to be successful. So like I was talking about earlier, you're getting angry because you didn't do well on a test, you blaming because you didn't do well on a test, you feeling like an imposter, you feeling shame, not asking for help. So that's just how your emotions, the things that you're feeling, can affect the behaviors, which will lead you down a path, can lead you down a spiral to be unsuccessful. So this is how your mindset can impact, or a student's mindset can impact their ability to be successful or not be successful in college. So when you're talking about that, in particular, being aware of having self-awareness, having resources and support systems, that's the other part of it, which is relationships, relational awareness. So knowing where you can go for help, knowing the resources, knowing the people that, if you need a cheerleader or a support system or somebody to strategize with you different ways that you can solve the problem. Because a lot of mindset or people who have successful mindsets in college have these different ways of making decisions, have these different ways of thinking through problems, rather than just giving up. So if there's an obstacle or a challenge or difficulty, not necessarily throwing their hands up or using, getting in their feelings, for lack of a better word, about it, but thinking about, okay, if this didn't work, then what else do I need to do? So giving yourself, I don't know, some people say it's like 24 hours to be in your feelings, and then, moving on with what needs to happen in order for you to be successful. So those making intentional, strategic, positive experience, or positive decisions about what you're going to do, how to make those decisions, who you can use to support you in making good decisions, having all of those tools and things in place are a good way or a good strategy to combat the negative mindset or the negative beliefs, those saboteurs that may come in and try to derail you. So that's how come and why it's important to have that social awareness, have that self awareness, and have that ability to, and also your ability to manage your emotions, the discipline required. Because there was a great post by Mel Robbins regarding like the difference between feelings, which is your emotional side of yourself, and the reality of having to do certain things. So that's talking about that idea of discipline, or what's called self-management. And a student's ability to self-manage or do things that you don't necessarily want to do or like to do in pursuit of a specific goal is also going to be important. And if you don't have the right mindset, then distractions will take your time, will take your energy, and will take your motivation. So it's easier to scroll through TikTok. It's easier to hang out with your friends. It's easier to do the things that will not lead you to success, rather than read the chapter for your class, rather than study for the test, rather than go to office hours or go to a study group and actually do the work. So when you don't have that fortitude, that motivation, that inner ability or discipline to do what's required, then the mindset can take over, the emotions can take over, the things that are understandable. Like it's understandable that if you don't do well, or you don't have things that meet your expectations, it's understandable to be disappointed. But that does not negate the fact that you need to do what's required in order to be successful. So that is another thing that I wanted to talk about. So your ability to identify if there's a situation that occurs, even a social situation that occurs, identifying what the problem really is, talking through what the problem is, figuring out a solution or many solutions to the problem is going to be something that you need to do. Reflecting on your role, reflecting or having empathy for, like, if it's a social argument or a social situation where there was a disagreement, maybe trying to see the other person's perspective, seeing if anything at all could have been done differently on your part, being able to communicate. All of that is going to be important. So your relationships, your requirements regarding your academics in college, all of that, your experiences in the classroom, your experiences out of the classroom with the social activities, be it going to parties, being a part of a club, having a job on campus, all of that is going to be important for the adulting. That is pretty much a good step or a level up from high school, where you don't necessarily have your parents or your friend group or anything that is there to already support you. You have to start from scratch. You have to build your support system. You have to build your network of friends. You have to build all the things that you may not be used to dealing with without having when you are at home in your high school, or at home where you're comfortable and familiar. So that's why mindset is so important in college. If you don't have that strong foundation, if you don't have these systems in place, if you don't have the people in place to support you, if you don't have the resources or know where to find the resources, or have the fortitude to go out and look for the resources that are going to be supportive of you on campus or at home, or however, your friends on campus, or your RA in your dorm, if you don't have that idea that, not necessarily that you're on your own, because you're not really on your own unless you want to be on your own. If you go out and seek out the resources, if you go out and raise your hand and say, I need help, then that is how you overcome the different obstacles that come often in place in college. So when I talk about mindset, there are a bunch of different strategies that you can use. So first of all, like I said, is that being aware, self-awareness of, just, and it's often not a thing that we do in our society on a regular basis, reflecting on what type of person am I? Am I a person who is highly sensitive? Am I a person who is highly, not highly, But like that's why I have students do that test, which identifies what their saboteurs are. Let me try. It's 10 of them. I should have brought them up. But it's if you're people pleasing, if you're hyper vigilant, meaning you're always on the lookout for something going wrong. You're always looking out for you always catastrophize. You think that a little thing, making a mountain out of a molehill. You're overachiever or hyperachiever. You're always looking for the next accomplishment, the next win, not necessarily celebrating or accepting all the wonderful things that you're doing. You're just looking for that next level of success. So there are a bunch of different ways that your mindset can take you down, or your mindset. And I like the way they describe it. Your mindset can either serve you in helping you reach your goals, or it can sabotage you in reaching your goals. So that's why it's important to be aware. That's the first level, self-awareness of how your brain can sometimes make a mountain out of a molehill, how your brain can sometimes have you be overconfident or overly optimistic when the reality is, and this often happens in the academic realm, at the end of the semester, and I'm sure you all, if you've been to school, have had this experience where it's like you're praying, oh my goodness, please let me pass this class. And this is that time of the year for high school. Oh my goodness, please let me squeak out this grade in this class. So the idea of magical thinking, or things are going to all magically work out just because you hope that they will. So that hopeful or magical thinking is another way that we self-sabotage. However, if you had been proactive and or responded to the feedback that I'm sure you received all semester, regarding your ability to be successful. And sometimes actually I know of situations where students have done all the different things. They've gone to tutoring, they've gone to office hours, they've gone to all the resources, they've tried to look up information on themselves. But sometimes it's just a matter of, like I said, during that first year of college, during that transition of college, there is or some professors, let's be honest, some professors don't know how to teach. Some professors are not flexible or understanding. Some professors don't explain things well. Some professors are not going to be as supportive as you want them to be. But that's the reality of life. So, and I often tell students that. So what is going to be your strategy for when that happens? What are your coping skills? What are your coping mechanisms for when that happens? And there are different options. Like when you meet with your advisor at your school, if you've done everything that you can do, there are different options that you can have. You can withdraw from the class. You can, gamble and see what happens, take the class over with a different instructor. There are different things that can happen, but sometimes being able to learn from those experiences, being able to have strategies in place and ideas in place for what you're going to do when this happens can help you be more confident in your ability to be successful when you are in these situations. And these are all part of the learning experiences of life, the part of the learning experiences of being a college student. These are all a part of, having the right mindset. So you are, there's different graphics with like the circles of influence and the circles of control. So one of the things that is in your circle of control is the way you think about things, the way your feelings are your feelings. If the student stressless coaches are still here, feel free to chime in the chat on this. Like, your feelings are your feelings. You're allowed to have your feelings, and you're allowed to feel the way you feel about things. But what you do have specific control over is your reactions, your behaviors, your habits. And if you are experiencing similar situations, similar, you're having patterns of being unable to reach your goals, you're having patterns of unable to be successful, then there needs to be something that changes in your mindset and your belief system, which will impact your habits, which will impact your behaviors. So that's how the cycle works. So in all areas of your life, in high school, in college, when you're a grown up, living on your own, understanding how that pattern works, being aware of the patterns that you have in your life, or your patterns of thinking that don't serve you, and working intentionally to change or reframe, as I was talking about earlier, how you're thinking about things that are going to help you to reach your goals, that are going to help you to be successful. So let me just look over my notes real quick, so I'm coming to the end of the hour. And I just wanted to make sure I went over all the different things. So let me just recap real quick. One other thing, two other things that I wanted to talk about with regard to mindsets. So when we're talking about, and this is, I don't think it's called perfectionism in the assessment that I give my students, but not obviously, but two other things that often take students down is this idea of kind of like when the overachiever or hyperachiever, the perfectionism, that everything has to be a certain way, everything has to work out as planned in my head, and also the idea of, especially in our day and age of social media culture, when you go away to college or you go off to college and maybe your friends go to other colleges and you see their highlight reel on social media, and you look at your own experiences and you're like, well, I'm not having that fun, or I'm not experiencing that, or even comparing yourself to others in your classes who are doing well, or getting the grades you want, or having the experiences that you want. Those types of comparisons, those types of feelings of perfectionism, those are also mindsets that are not serving you. Those are mindsets that are sabotaging you. So in addition to reframing, it's also important to, even before the semester begins, and in my book, which I could plug, actually it is up there. Maybe I will. I'm going to get it real quick. Hold on. In my book, one of the things in the book is having a bucket list of all the different things that you want to experience in college for all 4 years, or in college in general. I don't know if it's flipped or not. Let's see. So one of the things in my book is create your college bucket list. So all of the things that you want to experience in college. So what are the different things? Like, start thinking about that and reflecting on that now. That's something that you can work towards accomplishing during your first semester or your first year or your next year. What are the things that are on your bucket list? What do you want to experience when you are, almost an adult? Obviously, that can range from however old you are, 18, 24, whatever that age range, like age appropriate things, obviously, or, do you? So what are the things that you want? What are you looking forward to? When you've envisioned yourself in college, what were you looking forward to? What were you looking forward to experiencing? What were the different things that you thought would happen? All those different things. And it's a fun exercise and a fun practice. So from there, it's also good to identify what goals do you have? What goals do you have with regard to academically, like GPA goals, clubs and organizations? What goals do you have for meeting new people, building new relationships, professional relationships, personal relationships, roommate relationships? What are your goals? So all of these things can help you get your mind ready for the next semester. Because once you get to campus, things will change, things will adjust. But having some goals in place that you can work towards, fitness goals, mental health goals, meditation, exercise, making sure you don't gain the freshman 15. Like, what are your goals? Making sure that you're setting goals so that when you start on campus, you'll have something to work towards. Obviously, you'll have your classes, but life in college is more than just the academic part of college or campus life. I am almost done. So let me just recap what we were talking about today. So we were talking about the impact of your habits of thinking, your patterns of thinking, your and all of that on beliefs that you form based off of those habits becoming beliefs, based off of your experiences in life, your experiences in school, your experiences in general. So you have these ways of thinking that can be serving you, or they can be limiting you or prohibiting you from reaching your goals. So when you are aware of these things, when you are aware of your mindset of trying to please everyone, or your mindset of comparing yourself to other people, or your mindset of trying to be a perfectionist, whatever your mindset is that is not serving you, being aware of that and having the ability to reframe or rethink or think about things in another way, think about things from a different perspective, think about things that are going to be helpful to you. That will help you to identify what the resources are, the social resources, the campus resources, the personal resources. That will help you to get through these different obstacles that are bound to come. There are different obstacles that you faced in high school. There are different obstacles that you faced in your family. There are different obstacles that you face in life and you will continue to face in life. So having systems and strategies and people and resources and the ability to think through strategically, problem solve, how to think, how to problem solve, how to reflect, how to empathize, all of that is going to be helpful for you in getting your mind right for college. And then lastly, what's also going to help you to get your mind right for college is to have some like big BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals, some like bucket list items of what you are going to do, what you want to accomplish. That way you're not comparing yourself to your friends or comparing yourself to the people online, because you're walking your own path. And there was one quote that I wanted to share because it's a great quote and it's a great idea to leave off with, if I can find it. So the quote is, and I'm going to butcher it because I can't find it, but the path is made, I'm going to butcher it, but the path is made by walking it. So it's not necessarily, your dream or idealized version of what you think college is going to be like, but it's your need to actually walk the path of what is going to be for you individually as a person, based on your goals, based on your dreams, based on your aspirations, based on what you want for the long term, for your career, for your life, and what you want to experience while you're in college. They do say, although it's not necessarily true, if you're doing it right, that college is the best 4 years of your life. No, it shouldn't be. But it's definitely a great opportunity for you to learn and grow and experience and figure things out, experience things, and to learn. Like, that's obviously what you do in the classroom, but it's also what you do in the outside of the classroom. Form lifelong relationships, have great experience, be exposed to opportunities, learn from experts in their field. All of that is going to be important. So I'm going to leave you today. Like I said, next week we're going to talk more specifically about academic mindsets and like how and what you can do to make sure that when you step into the classroom, especially for those students who are in difficult majors or students who have never taken a college level class, we're going to talk about academic mindsets and how your mindset for the academic classroom is going to be or needs to be very specific with regard to the way you think about the class, the way you think about the instructor, the way you think about the work, all of that. So I will see you next week for next Momentum Mondays. We'll be talking about academic mindset. If you have any questions or comments, if you found this helpful, give me a like. If you found information in here that you think would be useful to someone else, definitely share that. And I will see you next week for the next Momentum Mondays. Thanks for joining. Bye.